Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 75 of the All in Football Fantasy Premier League show podcast. I am your host. I am back, the self-proclaimed FPL guru, Alex Rex. And I did miss it last week. Thank you, lads, for holding down the fort. And joining me today are Scott Williams' midriff, by the looks of his camera, then and Barry Stokes. Scott, how are you?
Yeah, good. It's nice to have a week off without doing the intro. Didn't do it as quite as good as me, but keep going, mate. You'll get there.
I did listen to the pod last week, and I was taking tips from your much more casual and relaxed style than my more formal one at the beginning of the podcast. I was like, I actually like this from Scott. I might get you to do the intro more often. Baz, how are you?
I'm all right. Bit disappointed. We had to sack our edit team from last week, but had to be done. All good, mate. I'm glad to have you back, mate. To be honest, we've muddled our way through, but glad to have you back.
Big shout out to everyone, by the way, for listening and tuning in, liking and subscribing and doing what they're doing, because it'll help me pay for some better software for next year. That means I can take out things in the middle if there's little breaks and edits that need doing. Because my software wasn't the best. Tried to edit it, but very poor from me. Thank you ever so much to everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also do not forget to give us 5-star reviews on where you get your podcast from, Spotify, Apple, etc. And then follow us on our social media platforms, Audible Pod, Wonderful P, Instagram, TikTok, and an X nowadays, isn't it? It's not Twitter anymore. So this week we'll review Manager Week, Manager Month competition, where we're up to with that, and then we'll have a focus on the first double game week of the season. It is Luton and Burnley who will play twice, and we'll have a look at the pod team, and we'll take a look at different options of what we should do if we're going to wildcard or not. So quickly on to Manager of the Week. And there were two people tied on 90 points this week for Manager of the Week. We had Callum Burnett on 90 points. Big shout out to you, Callum. But you did take a -4, which meant that on a tiebreaker, the Manager of the Week was Marco Marinelli. 90 points, wildcarded this week to a team of Flecken in goal, Trippier, Estupinian, and Botman. Couldn't have gone much better, that really, could it? Salah, Diaby, Saka, Gordon. Bench then came on and got 12 points. Very nice. Haaland up top with captain, classic, and Julian Alvarez as well up top. Areola, Kabore, Cash, and Archer on the bench. So congratulations to you for 90 points. What a big week. I don't know how 90 points feels, but I don't think I fell out of the season yet. Big shout out in terms of the podcast league to Mr. Will Hughes, who's still top. 82 points this week, another really strong week. Out of 9.976 million players in the world, your overall rank is 2,400. So big round of applause to you so far. What a cracking first 6 game weeks for you, Will. And you managed to get married in that period of time. So fantastic work from you. I mean, let's all be honest, being top of this league and being 2K in the world is the highlight of your year so far, though, without a shadow of a doubt. Moving on to Manager Month for September. So 1 week, this is the last game week for Manager Month of September. We have currently got the 2024 FPL winner, apparently, James Stevens, who is top of the Manager of the Month competition, 4 points clear of Will Hughes. Who's this in third? It's Sandeep Punjab in third. 8 points off the top for Manager of the Month. And then we've got my brother-in-law, Rory Kelly, who's 12 points back. And Richard Kirk, who, Life of Brian's always seems to be up and about there as well in fifth. So it's very close at the top. It could go either way, probably between Will or James, but Sandeep still got an outside chance there, I think, for Manager of the Month. So how very exciting. That's the admin done. Let's talk about the weekend's football. Scott, did you watch all the live games?
Didn't watch any of the Saturday night ones.
Okay.
So yeah, watched the two on Sunday. Did not watch any Saturdays.
What did you make of the two on Sunday? Because I mean, we had a couple of absolutely cracking games.
Oh, they were brilliant. I think it was the Sunday before. It was like a 1-0 and a 0-0. It was such a bad Sunday. But yeah, these two were brilliant. I mean, the North London derby just doesn't disappoint. It's just a fixture now. It's done it for years and years and years and years. I remember, you think about great North London derbies, you think about moments, you think about Aaron Lennon in the last minute, was it 4-4? You think about Harry Kane when he scored and ripped his mask off. And yeah, they're just great fixtures. They really are. They don't let down, and this one really didn't. And I think you had two really, really good teams. Two teams, Arsenal just showing that last season wasn't a fluke. They've not started as well as they did last year, but they're still ticking along nicely. And Spurs, they had spells in that game where they really had to sustain a bit of Arsenal pressure, but it did that really well. And then when you've got Son and Maddison, you've got quality on the pitch that can deliver, and they were fantastic goals by Son, and brilliant assist by Maddison. The way he turned Saka and gave him a bit of an elbow back for him, giving him a bit of a shithousery with the dart celebration. So yeah, fantastic game. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, Thingy made a brilliant save as well. Raya kind of, maybe it felt for one of the moments.
For anyone who's listening on the podcast, Baz just did the mocked Aaron Ramsdale's clap.
Yeah,
that he did. Bit mean. I mean, I don't know how he was clapping, but fair enough. Just cheering the teammate. I know that Carragher didn't believe it at all, but there you go.
I think in that spot, Ramsdale's very astute to know that camera is going to be on him. Yeah. Whenever Raya does a good save or whenever Raya makes a mistake, the camera is going to be on you as the other keeper that's just been dropped. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he could have just sat there and looked blankly, but people have probably made a lap like, oh, he looks fuming. So I think fair play to him for doing it. If he meant it or not, I think it's just showing support. So well done, Aaron Ramsdale.
What did we make of we'll get the bit out, a little bit out of the way, the handball for the penalty? Bit harsh or about right?
It's a tough one, isn't it? But I don't even know what the rule is now. It was stopping a goal scoring opportunity. There was a man on the line though, that could have got it. But yeah. I mean, the actual handball, Romero can't do anything about it. He's literally committing himself. If he doesn't do that, he doesn't commit himself like that, he's not a professional footballer. Mm-hmm. So it's just harsh, because I think if it goes past him, the defender on the line probably stops it going in. But as soon as you tell the ref to go to the monitor in a North London derby, it's only going one way, and it's going the way of the home team. The amount of pressure that ref was under then, I really think that VAR screwed him over by making him do that.
I think purely from a United perspective, the inconsistency is annoying, isn't it? Because we didn't get a penalty against Spurs from basically the same thing happening, which is frustrating. I tell you what though, at least it wasn't as bad as the handball decision in the Luton game. Did you see that, Scott?
I did not see that. No.
Well, for anybody who did miss it, the penalty that was given, Luton were playing Wolves. That was it. So the Wolves defender put his leg out to try block a cross. So naturally threw his arms up in the air because his leg was miles in front of him. So to balance, he put his leg out just to try. It hit his knee, then completely changed direction and hit his arm. The ref on review, they gave a penalty. Well, the ref gave a penalty on pitch, and then they reviewed it, and he still gave a penalty.
Yeah, it's a pen. It's not a pen, is it? Because it's come off in another part of his body and hit it. And yeah, I did listen.
Changed direction as well.
Didn't see the incident, but saw Gary O'Neill's rant after the game, and he's very composed usually, isn't he? So I think it's a bad decision when he's losing his rag a bit.
It was one of the worst decisions. For this is the thing, this is where VAR has given us no tolerance whatsoever of any of these things now. If the ref gets that wrong on field, which he did, he got that wrong on field. I mean, you go, it's the wrong decision, but you kind of get it. It's a human error that it hit his arm in real time. It's difficult. They looked at that. VAR, I was not given.
There was another situation in the Arsenal game as well, Nketiah on Vicario.
He's lucky
How's
he
he got
didn't.
away with that?
Well, he's lucky he's not touched him with that
Well,
foot. That's how he's lucky, isn't he?
He
'Cause
intend serious harm. If Vicario's foot wasn't in the air, that's broke his ankle. Easy.
Yeah.
He's just dived in. Yeah, he's trying to block the pass, but still, he's hit him and he's late. So, end of the day, to me, if Gusto's is a red card, that's a red card. Because I thought Gusto's, he's won the ball and he's gone through the man. It's an old-fashioned tackle in my eyes. I'd love to do that tackle. Make sure you get the ball and then get in. Take wife and kids. Take lot.
Always get the ball first, Baz.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's what he did. But because what kills VAR as well is when there's a decision like that, they put a still on it, and they slow it right down to like something that's obscene, very slow milliseconds, and you're like, well, it's not in real time. And another thing that I think is a natural, when they say talk about natural positions, well, why don't they get biomechanics involved, sports scientists, and film, like obviously when people's going in for a challenge where their arms are supposed to be, not behind their back trying to block a shot, because it's unnatural. That, to me, you can't keep your balance and try and do that. You're not a John Terry that's like a salmon and just throws himself on the floor trying to block something with his arms behind his back. It's just crazy. That they're going into too much overthinking stuff, to be honest, and trying to back the referee up by saying, "Oh yeah, I think that's that. I think that's that." And I think sometimes it's just not right. But
from a Spurs perspective, on this game, are we looking FPL perspective, Spurs perspective? Now I know they've obviously got Liverpool next. I'll double check that fixture in me when I have a look at the screen. But then they've got a couple of really good fixtures. Are we looking, especially for wildcarding after this week, in maybe next week? Are we looking at a double up on Son and Maddison here? Are we looking at a combination of players here for a couple of good fixtures, which we should probably have both? Never mind just one.
Yeah, I've done a few little drafts with Maddison and Son in, as well as having Ndogi in as well, and maybe even like Van de Ven, because it's 4.5 and Ndogi is like 4.8. So it's like trying obviously save a bit of money and get Van de Ven, because he's looked really good. Obviously, he doesn't get you a lot of attacking returns, but he's looked a solid defender, so he might get you bonus points. So that, but yeah, definitely Son and Maddison is definitely try and get Son, Maddison, Salah, Gordon.
Yeah,
Gordon's obviously a cheap option there. Formation wise, if you're looking at doing a wild card, I know we're going to probably touch on it a bit later. There's a 3-5-2 formation.
Yeah.
I think
there's so many
they're the
midfield
ones that you're
options.
looking at. But yeah, to answer your question in short time, Son, Maddison, yeah.
Would you look at defenders as well? Like, obviously, I'll ask you about the Son and Maddison thing in a second, Scott. But like, they have only got 2 clean sheets, and one was against Bournemouth away, the other one was against Man United at home, and Man United definitely should have scored in that game. Are we, in terms of attacking returns for defenders as well? I mean, their top scoring defender is Romero, I think, 27 points. Porro's got 19. Romero's got 27, even with a -2. But they're not really setting the world alight defensively.
No, you're not looking at Spurs this season and thinking defence. You're thinking attack, aren't you? So no, I certainly would not be looking at putting a defender in at this moment in time. No, they're too free flowing. And I just don't think the players are quite good enough to be that confident keeping that constant clean sheets. So nah, I'd be looking elsewhere for that.
Well, Vicario's got only 1 point less than Romero, but Son and Maddison, miles clear, 44 and 39. Have you got Maddison at the moment? You've got Son, haven't you? You've got Son, Scott, haven't you?
Son, yeah.
You've got Son. Are you looking at, obviously not
absolute joke, by the way, that Saka got 3 bonus in that game, but whatever, we'll move.
Yeah, and a goal and an assist, but then Son gets 2 goals. I'm obviously assuming you're not bringing Maddison in for Liverpool at home, especially because he's got a flag on him. But for the Luton away and Fulham at home games, are you going to potentially looking at getting the double up? Because I mean, I know I am. If I don't want to.
Yeah, definitely. It was a close call anyway. We went for Son or Madison. I just felt because when I brought Son in a few weeks ago, I brought him in a week after he scored the hat trick, and then he obviously blanked. I think
he blanked. You captained him. That was brutal. But then he returns 2 in this game, which you don't expect.
Yeah, a game he doesn't expect. And a fun fact: the most brought in FPL player every week has blanked the following week. Which is a very interesting statistic for the season so far.
I've brought the most transfer player in every single week, pretty much.
Okay, it's gone well.
Do you know what I mean? It's just been a nightmare.
But yeah, I want Madison in my team. We say it every season. I love watching Madison play. So it's exciting. He gets on the ball. He creates things. So yeah, definitely see it. I'll probably be potentially bringing him in anyway because I'm looking at wildcarding. So,
are you looking at wildcarding this week or next?
My team literally needs. If it was a horse, you're taking it around the back. No, I can't. You're putting it down. Like it's the team itself it's in a bad way, mate. I've been struggling to get 11 players out all season. And now they're injured. Now that the band, it's not in a good place.
I think we've all had a few. Have you got Gusto as well? Then I assume. Yeah. Trying to find your team. There you are.
I actually logged on. I was logged on with loads of optimism on Sunday, thinking I've had a good week here. And then you think, oh yeah, you've had a good week normally, but then so many people have just had the right players in. Like I didn't have Saka in, for instance, and like it's just that, or a Newcastle defender. So yeah, it's bad times.
You've got Gusto, Stupinian, Henry. That's the other problem. He's out for the season, isn't
he?
Yeah, Gabriel. It's interesting, isn't it? Because there's a potential that you could still get through this week with one transfer and then wildcard next week when the fixtures really change. Interesting one for you. We'll have a look at that in a bit more detail in a second. I was just going to do from the Spurs perspective in comparison to Arsenal that we have a look at in a second. So Arsenal's fixtures are taking a bit of a tighter turn, and also they've got they're still in the Champions League and also the League Cup, which takes up all of their midweeks up until the next international break in the middle of November. But Spurs, we're going into game week 7. They've got obviously a week off this week because of being eliminated from the Carabao Cup. Then they've got no European football. So they've got a full week's rest between each game, international break, then a full week's rest between 9 and 10, a full week's rest between 10 and 11, and a full week's rest between 11 and 12, and then an international break. Then 13, then a full week's rest before game week 14. They don't play 2 games in a week until December the 5th. So they ain't getting rotated, especially not Son and Maddison with that. You've got Spurs are one of those teams this season where potentially similar to how Liverpool might actually be because they'll be playing a sort of weaker team in the Europa League, especially at these stages, where you're going to see a quite definitive first 11 playing pretty much every single week, give or take. So interesting, isn't it, in terms of Spurs? And their fixtures, just for context, Liverpool at home, but then they've got Luton away, Fulham at home, Palace away, Chelsea at home, Wolves away, and then Villa at home before they play City away, which is obviously a tough game in game week 14, West Ham at home game week 15. But I mean, like generally speaking, the only tough game in there is City away in game week 14, Newcastle at home game week 16, but all of these other ones are more than winnable, and they're going to score goals this year, aren't they? Pretty obvious. They're pretty free flowing. So, yeah, I think a double up on Spurs is going to be quite interesting. Arsenal perspective, we've got a Martinelli injury, a Trossard injury, potentially a Saka injury, a Declan Rice potential injury. Are they a team to? Are they in trouble? I mean, Bournemouth away obviously seems like a pretty easy enough fixture for a team like Arsenal. They say they look like the real deal this season, Scott. But are they? City at home and then Chelsea away after. Who will be getting off the Arsenal wagon? or what we're going to do with our assets?
Yeah, you'll be keeping them for now. I think just they're still looking good. I mean, that thing said, that Bournemouth game, you're not panicking at that moment in time, but potentially be looking elsewhere after that Bournemouth game, like you say, for people that might be looking to wildcard. They've probably got 2, maybe 3 Arsenal assets in the team. Maybe wait till after this Bournemouth game. Maybe do your wildcards. You're probably not getting rid of them all. Saka just seems to be delivering every game. So are you really going to be getting rid of Saka? Probably not. But your other assets, like you say, your Martinelli's flagged and, he's injured and whatnot. So yeah, I think you want to keep out. They've not been as scintillating as last year, but they've still been decent.
Only 2 clean sheets in 6 again as well. So,
and both their clean sheets have both been away.
Everton and Palace, haven't they? That's what I've got written down here. Yeah, so I mean, like also games you'd expect them to keep clean sheets in, really. Yeah, I'm kind of agree with that, Scott, to be honest. Let's move on to one of the other key games from the weekend that was the other one that we watched on the. God, I can't get my clicking right. I'm under pressure here. 8-0, wasn't it? One of the games. Don't know if you heard about it.
Yeah. Swansea, wasn't
it? 8-0, eight different scorers, 5 different assisters. Trippier got a hat-trick of assists. We've had this conversation about Trippier now for a little while, because if we're all really honest, he's been a letdown since probably January of last year for actually the amount of returns that he's got. But he's just now catapulted himself after an 18-point return in 1 week. He's taken himself from a total of 13 points this season to 31. He more than doubled his tally for the whole season in 1 game. Did he look so damn good that now we have to get him? Or is it Sheffield United was so damn bad and actually he's not worth the money and we should be still looking at Shah, Botman, Burn way cheaper, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I think me and Baz did mention Trippier last week, pal, didn't we? We said after, because they did 2 clean sheets in a row. I think the thing with Trippier is he's not like a Trent, the way he's going to potentially guarantee an assist every game. Why he was looking so good at the start of last year was clean sheet, chipping him with a little assist here and there. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, he's hitting double points. And you're like, bloody hell, Trippier's on fire. Then they went off the boil, after, around the Carabao Cup, etc., There wasn't keeping clean sheets. But yeah, we did just say they did the Champions League clean sheet, did the clean sheet against Brentford the game before. So starting to look more solid. So he was one certainly to keep an eye on. I would still personally go for the cheaper options. I don't think he's looking too cray-cray at the minute. Sheffield United had conceded like 3 times as many goals from set pieces than the next team down. So he was always going to have chances, especially because Newcastle are a very big team. Burn, Botman, Shah, etc. So I would still be looking at the cheaper options for now, because Sheffield United were that poor. But you've always got to have your eye on Trippier. If he starts getting a few more assists, he's one actually going to be jumping on, because you will start rocketing in price a little bit. But for me, yes, cheaper options for now.
Baz, to move to you, obviously feel free to comment on that last point as well, but to move to you as well about, from a complete opposite perspective of Spurs, we're now looking at a Newcastle team who will play every midweek. They have got City in the Carabao Cup tonight, haven't they? So they might have these midweeks off. That's the midweek off between game week 10 and game week 11 for the Carabao Cup 4th round if they do get beat. But otherwise, they've got a game every midweek until Christmas. So are we worried about rotation? How do we handle? Because Newcastle have got some great fixtures, some great assets. What do we do? How do we handle their midfield and strikers and defenders and all of them?
Well, for Scott, when he said Trippier isn't a no-show, if I was wildcard, I'd be getting Trippier in just for the fear of him setting off on fire, catches flames, and then you're like, oh, I need to rip up my whole wildcard team to get him in. So for me, if I was wildcard, I'd be going in. I'd be getting him.
As a priority over some higher value midfielders, though, because I mean, this is where we can't. We've joked about it already, but can we afford the ball?
Yeah, but the choice is in midfield. Midfield get points more than what defenders do. So you can get a Gordon, you can get a Matoma, you can get a Mbeumo. They're going to get you points. So if you want a defender that's going to get you points with assists and potential clean sheets, because Newcastle are looking more solid at the back, then there you go. You can't get any more than Trippier, because Liverpool still ropey at the back. City, probably, they're probably going to be your next defensive one that you're going for, but with their run of fixtures, you're probably not going to get a defender. You'll probably go the double up in forwards. So, answer your question going forward with Newcastle, I think the front three, I think Gordon plays week in, week out now because Barnes is out for the till January. So, I think Gordon and Almiron are set in stone. Murphy, probably going to be in and out of like Carling Cup, League Cup and
sorry, Carling Cup.
I know.
I've been Carling Cup for about 15 years.
I know, show me age, mate. League Cup, and then obviously Champions League played really well against Milan defensively side, and I think with the group, I think that's what they can be more hard to beat in the groups in Champions League to try and get through at second place or get obviously the Europa League. So Gordon, Almiron, and Wilson or Isaac is still a coin flip between them two, but I prefer Wilson than Isaac on that one. But yeah,
is that because he played the league game and Isak played in Milan?
I just think Wilson looks more clinical in front of goal than Isaac.
Oh, I think he is. Don't doubt
that. That's the only thing. I think he looks a bit more better in front of goal and on compared to what Jackson did, being a Jackson owner. So anyone looks better than him. So that's why I think Wilson is a better pick. But I wouldn't be wasting a forward slot on them two because the rotation risk of them two are quite crazy. But an Almiron or a Gordon for a midfield cheaper option if you can't get the Maddison, Son, Salah, big premiums there in midfield, you'd want to be getting at least one or maybe even two of Newcastle's run of fixtures going in. So that's my take on Newcastle, to be honest.
One last thing I would just say on Trippier as well is I think he won't get dropped. I think two reasons. Right. He doesn't play 90 minutes. He gets subbed off most games, but he gets over that 60-minute threshold. And Eddie Howe just trusts him too much. He's too important to that team to not play week in, week out.
And who he's dropping for?
He's captain, yeah. Captain, yeah. I think Lascelles is club captain, but he's never playing, is he? So
yeah.
Well, I just looked at that in terms of the defenders. I mean, like their back four, their first choice back four is pretty nailed on, really. So defensively, I don't think we need to worry too much about Shaw, Botman, Burn, and Trips getting dropped. Midfielders, in terms of minutes, Bruno Guimaraes is by far the most important central midfielder. They're really struggling, him and Tonali, to play together, it seems. I was listening to a Clash of the Correspondents podcast, and Newcastle fan was on there talking about it, and he was just saying, we love them. We think they're both brilliant players, but they're just really struggling to gel in a midfield three alongside like a Joe Linton. And that's where Longstaff's come back in, because he's just the legs. He's just getting about more. He's giving them more energy in midfield. So that midfield three of, whether it's, obviously Murphy's got 4 minutes so far, but whether it's like Anderson, Joe Linton, Tonali, Guimaraes, like they're struggling there, really. So I think Bruno's the most important player. And as much as I don't fully agree they're set in stone as a two, because Isak can play wide and Anderson can play up there and everything else. Their first choice two wide players are pretty obviously Gordon and Almiron. So yeah, if you're going to go there, Almiron's 6.3, but Gordon's 5.6. Gordon's got off only playing 60 minutes more. He's got double Almiron's points, and he looks like the player that they wanted to buy. So I think if you're going to go for a midfielder, it's Gordon. And I agree with you. I'm not spending money on Isak or Wilson. I'm probably doubling up on Botman and, I mean, if I could afford Trippier, amazing, but maybe Botman and Shah or Botman and Burn, and then getting Gordon, I think, personally. Great value. 5.6. I mean, these fixtures as well, like, just quickly before we move on from Newcastle. Obviously, they play Brentford and Sheffield United, but they've got Burnley at home. West Ham away is obviously not an easy game. But Palace, Wolves, Arsenal, and Bournemouth. Well, Chelsea's an easy game these days, isn't it? Chelsea after that. Man U's an easy game these days. Oh, why not? Let's have them for all of these fixtures. To go back to the weekend's football and to run through that. Shame that Liverpool-West Ham game wasn't televised. But Darwin actually scoring against someone who isn't Newcastle. Did anyone watch the highlights? Have you watched Match of the Day too? Have you seen anything of that Liverpool game? I'm interested in the ball.
I saw the highlights. He looks an handful, doesn't he? But he's still got the snatching at some shots. But even though he took his goal really well, but he missed a good chance before then, where it's just like spooned off his foot and gone wide. But I've been saying it from week 2 or 1 or since the Newcastle game that I think Darwin's a great option. But then obviously you two ridiculed me saying, no, it's Darwin, innit? It's Darwin. But I think he's going to be really good this season. And I think
definitely more me than Scott. I think I'm still not sold on him at all. I'm really not. But this is why the conversation happens, like, because I think in terms of striking slots, I mean, we'll talk next week a little bit more about the world without Haaland, because we have to have that conversation with the fixture run that they've got and spreading funds, and if we want to get things elsewhere. I mean, I don't see any of us really going without Haaland even for that next period of games, but we'll have that conversation next week, and we have to have a look at different striking options. When you have a look at this run of fixtures that Liverpool have got, I mean, they have got 7 out of 8 fixtures in a row, which are fantastic. You look at Everton at home, Forest at home, Luton away, Brentford at home, City away, Fulham at home, Sheffield United away, and Palace away. You want to have 2 Liverpool assets in there. I'm still trying to decide which Liverpool assets to get. Obviously Salah, and then who else to buy. I don't want to just have one Liverpool player in there. So that's why I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Liverpool at the moment and who we should be really watching closely in their away games against Spurs and Brighton.
Szoboszlai as well. He looks really good, but he's not.
But will he get attacking returns though, Baz?
Yeah, he's not getting the points that he deserves, to be honest, because he's playing really well. And Scott's frustration because he picks him every week on differential 5-a-side, like the best buds. But yeah, I think he's very good on the eye, put it that way. And I think him and McAllister have got a good working relationship. And then when they get Gravenbach in there as the holder as well, I think it's going to be a triplet made in heaven. I think Curtis Jones gets a bit forward a bit, but I think Gravenbach's going to come in there and make it more solid. So, and hopefully solid up the back 4, and obviously then potentially a Liverpool defender's an option then, for example Trent or Robbo. So yeah, I think he's the other one that I would be looking at. But 7 million. You could be going for Matoma to save you a bit of money, and Bumo's cheaper as well. It's
too expensive off an XGI of 1.4 this season. He's too expensive for 7 mil, isn't he? This is where I'm lost. I'm lost for another Liverpool asset, and I'm like, am I really going to go with Darwin? Scott, can you say Szoboszlai yet? By the way, you pick him every week. You still can't say his bloody name.
Well, I'll say his name correctly when he gives you some attacking returns.
But Salah at 43 points this year, then it's Darwin at 28, Jota with 25, then your Robbo with 25, I mean, Alisson's got 23. Like, what? Are we just going with Salah?
I would be tempted to put Darwin in there. Like I said, he is a bit of a Traore, bit of a troll at times, but you kind of get that. You go for that ride with him, don't you? It's like you go on that roller coaster with Darwin. You get those front seats, and you know it's going to be up and down, but at the end of it, more often than not, you're going to get back safe and sound. And you're on to the next ride.
That's so cute. Back safe and sound.
You're getting some candy floss and you're enjoying your 8-point return. So yeah, he's one that I would look at. Probably still stay away from like the defense. Robertson, most of those points came in one game when he scored. But yeah, I like Darwin, and I'm kind of, I think I'd have been bottom of fantasy football if I didn't have Salah in from the word go. So
someone is below you. I put your ranking wrong here, by the way. I've done all these ranks.
It's not as good as that, I don't think.
1.5 mil. You're in 4 points something mil. I'm 4.7, so it must be 4.0 or something. We'll get that amended. Don't worry. Bowen again on the score sheet. That's great. I think we need to be looking out for fixtures moving forward for West Ham. They are starting to turn more like game week 10, and then they've got a phenomenal run from game week 10 all the way to game week 17. So keeping an eye on West Ham and Jose Prowse and Bowen, of course, for example. Before we move on to the Luton and Burnley focus, I've just got to ask you, Baz, about Chelsea. Because, they showed so much promise, that Luton game. We were buying Jackson. We were buying Sterling. Chilwell was playing. He missed the sitter. I sent you a video. He didn't pass it.
Yeah, no. I had Jackson from start because his pre-season stats were unbelievable. I thought, I've got to get him in at 7 million before he goes up to like 7.5 or something daft like that. And Sterling, he's looked great. But as I said previous week, he's a Theo Walcott. He rushes his chances. He's an instinct player, and that's when he scores his goals with an instinct. If he's got time, you might as well hit barn door. And so Jackson, same. It looked like he needs that extra second to go right. Instead of toe poking this straight at keeper, I'm just going to open my body up and just play it round him. So I won't be touching any Chelsea player, none at all. It's Jekyll and Hyde. Like obviously they played good against Sheffield United, Burnley, and Luton probably, and then all rest. Then they'll struggle. I think the only people I'm probably looking at is Disassi. He obviously had a goal chalked off he was offside, but he scored already. Could be a potential differential. But if I was screaming out, I mean, I'm proper clutching at straws to pick a player, apart from Sterling, who's looked obviously good but not performed. I think Chelsea's just no. Not at all.
A couple of fun stats for you. Enzo Fernandez has won 3 Premier League games in 8 months. And Nicholas Jackson.
What's that per million?
Well, let's divide 100 by 3, shall we? And then for you quick maths guys at home, well done. And Nicholas Jackson, 4.7 XGI this season and 1 GI. It's got 1 out of 4.7. But this is one of the reasons why, again, the eye test is so important. I said this to you guys when I watched the Luton game, didn't I? I thought both teams in the first half were terrible, if I'm honest. And his touch was terrible. He was getting in the right spots, but he just wasn't delivering. He looked like he was panicking, like you say, all the time. And then, he gets 1 goal and we go, oh, well, he's scored now. Let's get him involved. And he's just not delivered ever since. Scott, your take on Chelsea briefly, and then maybe a quick word on Aston Villa.
Yeah, Chelsea. If someone said to me, "I'll pay £100 to watch Chelsea Luton," I don't think I'd do it. Like, it's just like they're one of the most boring teams to watch Chelsea now, aren't they? They're a disgrace. But do you know what? They've got a lot of key players out as well. They do. I think Nkunku,
he's big.
He's a big loss for him, man.
Yeah,
he's not just done it like I think Jackson had a good season last season, but Nkunku he's done it for like last 3, 4, 5 seasons. He's the real deal. So they're gonna be good when he comes back, and he's a big miss.
He's the guy that they bought to score the goals. Like, to be fair. And Villa, so just so the podcast listeners can hear as well. Aston Villa, they have Brighton this week, but then they go on a fantastic fixture run again. They've got Wolves away, West Ham at home, Luton at home, Forest away, Fulham at home, Tottenham away, and then Bournemouth away. So they've got 6 out of 7 really good fixtures. the people wildcarding in game week 8, or even maybe even wildcarding now with them playing Brighton at home, and Brighton haven't really got a very good defence. We've got to be considering Aston Villa assets. Now, Ollie Watkins has got 1 goal and 4 assists so far this season. So he's got 5 attacking returns in 6 games. And Diaby has got 4 attacking returns in 6 games, 2 goals and 2 assists. Expected goal involvements are basically around about those numbers. Watkins slightly outperforming them. These guys, the 2 guys to get if you're going to go for Villa. Scott?
100%. I've had Diaby in, and he's not returned. Don't get me wrong, in the last 3 weeks, but he's been so unlucky not to. He had an absolute worldie chalked off, and it was like it's like literally millimeters. He's looked so good. He's looked their best player for me. So I'm comfortable. If I wasn't wildcarding this week, he's not someone I'd be looking at getting out anytime soon. And he's with those fixtures coming up, he's still not going to be coming out. So I don't know why I even mentioned wildcard. Yeah, Watkins potentially. I don't know. Me and Ollie Watkins have not been friends. I don't know why. He's not someone that I like putting in my team, and I quite like the guy. I don't know why I don't like putting him in.
He's not explosive though, is he?
No,
that's the thing. He just trickles away with an assist and a goal and an assist. And then sometimes you watch him and then he has a sitter and you're like, he's going to score. And then he kicks it at the keeper and it's terrible. And he's a bit of a weird player, but my God, he's delivered in every game bar 1 this year, I think. He's got an attacking return in every game bar 1 this season. I've had him all season. Yeah, like a 1 year. I've had him all season, Watkins. I'm not getting rid of him, even if I wildcard this week. I've kept him for this good fixture, and I want to get Diaby in. He's one of the players that I want to get in, who's that sort of level of midfielder to then. I think if we're going to, again, we'll talk about wildcard structures in a second as well. We're going to do Luton and Burnley, and then we'll talk about that a little bit more when we're looking at our pod team. But players like a Diaby and a Gordon are and also like a Botman, are almost like essential enablers to be able to get you to have a wildcard team with Salah, Haaland, and Son in it, because the money starts to become tight, and you need those couple of, Cameron Archer's got to sit on your bench. Like it's kind of, you have to play that structure. Baz talked about a 3-5-2. And yeah, just a quick shout out to Matty Cash at 4.7. Yeah,
Digner as well. He had a good shot. Sanchez didn't make a great save from it, but obviously Mourinho coming back, maybe with potential rotation rates. And I like the other lad, Zanolo. He looked quite decent as well. But
I don't even know the Italian. He plays on the wing, doesn't he?
Yeah,
right mid.
Yeah. I thought he looks all right for a nice little differential, but won't be screaming out to get him, if you know what I mean. But if you wanted something different, he looked quite handful in some of the games I've seen.
Let's go on to the teams that double this week. So Luton have the best double game week. They play Everton and then Burnley. Obviously, Morris is someone that's been talked about a lot. He's got 26 points this season. He has scored 2 goals and got 1 assist. Both goals are penalties? Yes, both goals are penalties. And 1 assist, but 5 bonus points, 26 points. He's the only person who's got more than 11 points this season for Luton so far. So if we are looking, and I can see Scott's already bored of this conversation, if you are though, aren't you? Because you're like, don't touch Luton, just shut up and move on. That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're wildcarding in game week 8 and you want a 1-week punt on a player, then from your perspective, would you look at anyone other than Morris? And if you were wildcarding potentially as well, or if you have him in your team anyway, maybe Kabore or 4 million as a bench defender who plays every week and has got an assist. Can you say anything positive about him?
Well, nothing positive about scoring 2 penalties. Anyone can do that. Look, I'm gonna probably slag Luton off, and I'm not slagging them off for being the football team. I love the fact they're in the Premier League. As a supporter of a lower league team, I love it. I just think we shouldn't be touching them with a barge pole at the minute, like as assets for fantasy football. The only ones I would do is, like you say, a guaranteed 4 million starter is never a bad thing for a bench. So as someone who's had a 4 million player that's not played a second of Premier League football on my bench all season, I would have loved a 4 million asset just coming for 1 or 2 points. So yeah, it would just be a 4 million asset just in case.
Would you look at a 1 week punt if you were wildcard in the week after on Morris?
No.
Baz?
I would, but I can't afford him. Joe Pedro has gone down 5.4. It was going to be a straight swap. Morrison, triple captain him, and not doing that mistake with what we nearly did with Dennis. Oh, but yeah, I think they're the only two, to be honest, Kabore and Morris. I think we should just move on to Burnley.
From predicted points point of view, forgive the pun, we're looking at Kaminsky's predicted 7.3 points because basically Burnley and Everton are a little bit toothless generally. Even though I didn't even mention that about the weekend. You know, sometimes in the Premier League, like a really random result happens, and Brentford lose at home 3-1 to Everton. But Everton, who can't play away, but Brentford, who are very good at home. Everton, who can't score a goal, score 3 times. Brentford have looked really quite good going forward, like score 1. I mean, you play Super 6 every week, Scott. I bet not one person predicted Everton to win that game. Not one person predicted Everton to score more than 1 goal.
No, I don't even think my brother's partner, who doesn't know anything about football, I think he went for a Brentford win. So yeah, it's an absolute coupon buster. It's an absolute freak result, isn't it? But a massive, like you say, it's gone under the radar this week. But massive result for Everton, like humongous result. And yeah, I know we're skipping a beat a bit, but they're playing a team that aren't very good this weekend.
I said last week, jump on Everton. You laughed at me saying it was a joke.
Yeah,
well, I didn't know what was going on last week, mate. Your head was all over the place, and Alex here. It was a mess. So I thought you were just rambling.
He's one of the podcasts to end, I think. Randomly, Burke is predicted 6.5 points for the 4 million defender, and Bell at 5.9 as well. But Burnley at home, Everton away anyway. So you've got.
I think we drawn the Luton chat a bit too much there, to be honest.
Well, I think the Burnley chat's even shorter. Personally,
I prefer Burnley players than Luton.
I mean, none of them has got
the fixtures.
I mean, also Foster's suspended, isn't he?
Yeah.
At 5 million up top. I mean,
Show. He's really good.
He does, but he's got no end product at the moment, has he? I mean, I suppose he's got 1 assist. He played us, and I watched. I just got to sit down and watch the whole of the second half of the Man U game. I watched the end of the first half as well, and they had the first 20 minutes they looked all right, Burnley, but then after that, I mean, they were just we could deal with it an arm's length, and he's one of them players that does a lot of like flapping and flipping about, and then hasn't really done much. But yeah, I think when we're looking at our differential 5-side teams in a bit, he's 0.2% owned or something. He's definitely someone who's a shot. Sorry, I've given that away for Scott now.
It's not on my list, mate. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay, fine.
That's right. I've done a list this week.
Yeah, well, he's done 100%. But yeah, all right, Baz, talk to me. Convince me of any of these Burnley players, because I'm not convinced by any of them.
Well, Show looked good. Andoni at the post. I think you've just got away with one there. To be honest, I think
there's a football player though. He should be hitting the post, mate. I can hit the post because I don't get paid to do it.
But obviously,
put it in the net. The goals are massive these days, aren't they? Put it in the net.
Yeah, not 5-a-side goals, are they? No. So Andoni's a good potential option. The only problem is it's 5.4. It's like, am I tempted to put Andoni in for João Pedro? I might actually do, because I might as well, because João Pedro is probably going to come on and get 1 point. So Andoni, I think, he's looked good, but he's not. He's like a Jackson player. He's not clinical enough, but he does some good movements, and his stats, as I talked about in pre-season, he was like obviously the top goal scorer in was it either the Europa League or Conference League. So he knows where back in that is. Obviously, he's just been unfortunate with that one, but he's got a really good goal against Forest. Show, as I touched upon, obviously he passes the eye test, as Scott keeps saying.
You two mates now. You call him Kosho. I like that.
Kosho.
Me and Kosho, just mates.
Yeah, mates, aren't we? A bit like Shabozlai and Scott. And also, if you wanted a cheap player, Charlie Taylor, 3.9 million. I think he's played the last 2 games. He hit a good shot as well against Man U when Onana saved it, I think, or it went wide 1-2. But yeah, I think there's more attacking play with Burnley, more potential to get points than Luton. If Burnley had Luton's fixtures, then yeah, I'd be looking at it, but I wouldn't be going crazy over Burnley, if you know what I mean. But there are a few to mention if I was crazy and went for Amdoni. That might do.
Big game, isn't it, really? 3 goals scored by Luton and 4 by Burnley. The worst 2 attacks in the league. What a brilliant Tuesday night game it's going to be.
What's the defensive situation, though?
Goals conceded 13 for Burnley and 11 for Luton. I think only Sheffield United conceded more. Oh, no, saying that. Wolves have conceded 12. So only Sheffield United have conceded more than Burnley. And obviously 8 of them came in one game, which was pretty poor from their point of view. Yeah, okay. Well, we've talked Luton and Burnley to death. So well done, everybody. Well done, Scott, for getting through that.
I bet not one listener puts any Burnley or Luton players in your team.
Oh,
I'm going to do it now.
But this is where, right? So I don't agree with that, and I only don't agree with that because if people are going to wildcard, not this week but next week, then if they've got a couple of 0.1 or 0.2 in the bank and they've got João Pedro and they're happy with the rest of the team, they're probably going to do it, aren't they? They're going to.
It's just a bit more exciting. It's very missionary, isn't it?
Oh, it's not that all missionary. You'd love missionary, wouldn't it? So there's too many jokes. I can't say that we're a podcast. Right. Yes.
Podcast that my mum listens to.
What is it you want to listen to? Wildcard chat.
Can't tell these
Wildcard chat.
Yes, wildcarding.
Edit this bit out.
It's let's wait until we get to 8 and then we'll start talking again. Oh God. Right. Transfer planner. Here's the pod team. Probably a good place to start. So we've got 1.1 in the bank and 2 free transfers. So here's the conversation, right? Well, this week is, I mean, you could try bring Salah in this week, but this week isn't the week you need to break the bank to bring Salah in if you haven't got him. Now we've obviously got Mo Salah in our team. We need to start working. We have no Spurs at all, so that's the team we need to get to. We only have Leon Bailey for Aston Villa. How did we get Bailey in? What happened there?
Got one the transfer thing.
Yeah, it's got one the transfer thing.
Voice to the people again, but
yeah, that's it.
They've gone with you again last week.
Yeah, I know. They're as stupid as me.
We've got João Pedro up front, and where do we start with this? Where do we start with this team if we don't want to wild card anytime soon?
Well, we've got 2 free transfers, so that's always handy. So I think we do need to wildcard because we've got too many Chelsea players in for my liking.
No, Baz, no. What do we do if we don't need to wildcard first?
Yeah, well, get rid of all Chelsea players, get rid of João Pedro, get rid of Baldock. Yeah, this goes on, mate, to be honest.
Hey, we've got a Luton player in there.
I know, I'm excited about that.
Get in. Did you even see the name of the podcast? Thank you very much, Callum Burnett. When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's Kabore. Nice. Oh yeah, thank you very much. That was Callum.
Is that this week's?
Yeah. That's what we're calling it this week. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Nice.
I was waiting for you to join the podcast, so I did the artwork first because it saves a bit of time late. Sorry, Baz. Yeah, go on.
João Pedro out for me. Get Morris in. Baldock out and get a Newcastle player in. Botman or Burn or Shaw if we can afford it, but I think Botman will be for me.
I think if we're not wildcarding, we're taking the -4, aren't we? Chopping free transfers in there.
That's if you were going to go for a potential wildcard. I mean, you'll go for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you are wildcarding, you think we just do 2 transfers and then we'd wildcard next week instead of taking a -4 into a wildcard?
Yeah.
You haven't lived.
Oh, it's usually Alex that comes up with the minuses. Mr. Minus there. Every transfer is suggested. Oh yeah, we'll do a minus.
Yeah, but I do think I'm right. So no, but
Obviously.
from that perspective, can we afford trips? Yeah, we can. So we could go for like Morrison trips this week. Start Kabore obviously over Gusto, who's obviously suspended, and then play that team this week. And then that's the team that you would have to then wildcard next week, because we're still stuck with a couple of Chelsea players that we don't want, a couple of Brighton players. We've got 2 Luton assets that we don't really want. We'd have to then really figure that one out. But if we don't want to wildcard, which is what we're trying to get at here to start with, what do we? Who are the sort of players that we want to be bringing in? Let's get the fixtures up, shall we? I just think this is a good graphic for fixtures and bringing it together. So we've got the fixture run in game week 8. I'm going to talk from game week 8 here rather than from game week 7, because I think a lot of people are at that crossroads, that key crossroads where they make that decision this week if they're going to wildcard next or not, based on what transfers and what moves they're going to make. I know you are, Scott. I can see excitement on your face. You forgot you're on camera then. Go week 8. Newcastle obviously have got good fixtures. Manchester United have got good fixtures. Liverpool's, their fixtures turn really, really strong after that point in time. We've got Aston Villa, who have got good fixtures coming up. We'll potentially West Ham a little bit later on and further down the line. And we have got Burnley, who have got some good fixtures as well. So who are we investing in this week if we're not wildcarding? Is it a 1 transfer and save the 2 for the week after? Because that's what I think. So we just use 1 transfer this week and then we do 2 the week after, or
if you're having a 1 week, if you're having a punt, I would like to get Jared Bowen in.
I think Bowen from game week 10 is someone who I'm going to be desperately trying to get in my team.
Newcastle, no, is it Sheffield United, isn't it?
Sheffield United this week, yeah.
Bowen's a great shout. Obviously, he's looking really good. Great diving header against Liverpool. So yeah,
Newcastle and then Villa the 2 after, which aren't terrible fixtures, and like it's City and like Arsenal, is it? So
Newcastle's looking really solid at the back now, and so yes, it's definitely a 1 week punt. I think on that one, you'll be getting in Bowen and JWP and people like that on game week 10.
Yeah,
and you'd be even looking at Palace players at game week 10 as well, because obviously game week 11 looks really good going forward on that front. They're basically the teams that you're going to be looking at is a Man U, Newcastle, Villa, Tottenham. They're the ones that I'd be focusing on getting in if we're not going to wildcard.
The ones that have got good fixtures this week are Man U and Newcastle. And to be honest, I don't know who I'll go for Man U for longer term, because I don't want to clog my team up with a Bruno and a Rashford. And I don't really want any of Man United's defenders. The only other player that's potentially an option is someone like a Højlund, who I think looks quite lively and looks like a decent player. So I think you're looking at Højlund. If not for me this week, if you're not wildcarding, from our team's perspective, it's definitely a Newcastle transfer. That for me is
Gordon for Bailey.
I mean, Gordon for Bailey is an option. If I can get that back up here, Gordon for Bailey is an option. We have got 1.1 in the bank, so can we still afford 6.7? We can go Chilwell to trips. That is something that's an option. So I think we're looking at a bank in one of the transfers, using one of them, and then having 2 going into next week. Because I think potentially for people, and I know you're going to really blow a gasket here, Baz, but for anybody who wants to not use their wild card, the fixture swing is so key and so big, as we've just talked about. There's the time to be using your 2 free transfers, then a -4 or even a -8 to try and save your wild card for as late as you possibly can. Sorry, Baz. To try and save your wild card for as late as you possibly can do in the season. So that's what I'd be advising to do. So our 1 transfer could be Sterling could be a Bowen, could be a Bailey for Gordon, it could be a Chilwell for a Trippier, it could even be a Gusto for a Botman. if we wanted to do something like that, because Gusto's obviously suspended. We could do Baldock for Botman because Baldock's injured. So we've got all of these options, but the point I'm trying to make and waffle on about is use one transfer this week, not two, or try and bank it for the big fixture swing next week if you aren't going to be you trying to use your wild card. Let's talk about wildcards then, Baz, because you were talking about structure earlier and players to bring in. We've talked about a couple of 1 week punts this week. If you wanted to go for players like that, there's obviously a couple of Arsenal lads you might want to jump on as well for 1 week punts. How would you be going about structuring a wildcard? Very briefly, because obviously we'll touch a lot more depth on this next week.
No worries. So as we touched upon, them teams would be your core: Spurs, Man U, Liverpool, Villa, and Newcastle. And then when you get to like game week 10, 11, you want to be trying to look at getting rid of players that the fixtures change, and you want to be focusing on a Palace and a West Ham players. Mostly Palace, where you probably got Eze, Edouard, and probably Palace's defence as well. They look quite solid and they're very structured. So that would be, and you can even potentially get one in there because you've got to look at rotation as well, especially if you're going for some cheap alternatives. You want your free premium defenders of such, and then your other two to be like rotation just in case your premiums have big fixtures. So obviously with the goalkeeper situation, it's quite easy to just go Turner and Areola because of the fixtures are so good. It goes all the way up to game week 19 for the rotation. Doesn't work this week, but next week it does. So with that, that's my take on it. I don't want to go too much and talk about individual players because we'll be here for a while, and we've been here for a while as it is. So
yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that next week. Don't worry about that.
That's the base.
Yeah, and you go cheap at the back. This was the wildcard team we put together a couple of weeks ago. It hasn't really changed too much. You obviously would like to get Son in some way, shape, or form in this team. I think Rashford's the guy that needs to be sacrificed for that, really. And then it's restructuring. You're probably saving a mil with Vicario, going down to someone like Turner. You save a mil there. That's a straight swap, and then you're trying to get maybe Sarr up to a Gordon with that million. And then that team starts to take shape quite nicely. You're then looking at triple Villa. You're looking at double Spurs. Obviously Salah, Haaland, and then obviously the cheap players in and around there as well. Shall we do draft? 5-side draft. Let's do it. Yep. Who's first this week?
Who's first this week? Shut up.
You, mate. No, it's Scott, yeah.
Yeah, it's me.
Got Alex, and then it's me.
Scott Williams, go.
I'm going to go for... I've got all my play. I have got everyone written down here as well. Can you just put the fixtures on the screen quickly, Al?
Of course I can. No problem at all. Here are the fixtures. I assume you're not going for any Luton or Burnley players.
No, I've got one written down actually. I'm going to go for Callum Wilson.
Okay.
Striker, 10%.
That's 6.2, isn't he? That's what 6.2% own.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Apologies. It's all running fine on my end, by the way, lads. My internet connection for some reason is a little bit unstable. I don't know why. For me next, I'm going to go with Jared Bowen at 10% owned.
Didn't even see him. Are you sure he's still 10% owned?
Yeah. Bowen 10% owned.
I'm having Gordon.
You're having Gordon. Gordon at 4.1% owned. Gordon, isn't he?
Right.
Tick him off the list.
Scott, back to you.
I'm gonna go for Varane.
Okay, Varane. I don't know how well owned Varane is. I don't know what his percentage is.
Well, he's under 5, mate.
Under 5. I'm going to go for Morris, 4.7% owned, double game week up front for Luton.
I'm going to go for Kaminsky.
Oh, he's gone for the 0.3% owned goalkeeper Kaminsky. Scott?
I'm going to go for Solomon under 1.
Solomon under 1. I'm going to do my under 1, and I'm going to go for Koleosho at 0.2% owned. Over to you, Baz.
I'm gonna
I've not been the slowest today.
I'm gonna have Hoyland again.
Yeah.
4.7% owned, yeah.
Yep. I'm gonna go for I'm going for
midfield and goalkeeper, mate.
Yep, got them written down. Don't worry about that. I'm keeping on track of it today. I'm gonna go for we'll go for Raya. 5% on the 5.
Yeah, Raya was my first choice goalkeeper. Yeah, nice one for there, Scott. Gonna have to look at a different option there for keeper. I'm
it's
gonna
2-5. Is it 3-5%, guys? Isn't it? Sorry, just
3-5s.
Yeah, cool.
I'm gonna go for the only defender that didn't get an attacking return for Newcastle last week. Fabian Schär at 4.3% owned.
Barkowski.
And I will go for Dan Burn, please.
Yeah, nice choice. He was
under 5%.
You need a midfielder, mate.
Oh, does it?
Oh yeah. So
unless you want 2 defenders, you can.
You can have 2 defenders. You can go 2 defenders, 1 midfielder, 1 striker. That's allowed.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
It is allowed.
Why not?
5%. I was gonna go for Raya. Do you know what? Let's go for double game week Trafford.
I knew that was coming.
He's the only real option, isn't he? To be fair, I mean, it was either him or maybe like Flecken, but I got burnt by him last time.
I picked on over 10, under 10. Sorry, I'm going for Paqueta.
At 1.8% owned Paqueta. I like that. Barry, tell us a rundown of the teams then, please.
So Scott has gone for a formation of 2-1-1. And Raya in goal, Varane and Burn in defence, Solomon in midfield, and Wilson up front. Alex Trafford in goal, Shaw, Bowen and Koleosho in midfield, Morris up top. I've gone for Kaminsky in goal, Tarkowski in defence, Gordon and Paqueta, and Hoyland up tops.
You can tell I've gambled on the double game weeks. I've got 3 double game week players. Bad's only got one it is. I think Scott's ignored them all.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the fixtures and captains to wrap up then, shall we? And then Baz can tell me if I've forgotten anything. In terms of deadlines, we are looking at a classic Saturday 11 o'clock deadline for the early kickoff of Aston Villa versus Brighton, which should hopefully be quite a good game. Then Bournemouth play Arsenal, Everton Luton, Man U Palace, Newcastle Burnley, West Ham Sheffield United and Wolves Man City. So a stacked 3 o'clock kickoff schedule on Saturday, which is always good. And Spurs Liverpool is the evening kickoff. It's a good day of football, that, let's be honest. It seems like a really good day and a really good set of games. Forest Brentford on Sunday, the only game on Sunday. Monday Night Football is the derby between Fulham and Chelsea. And then Luton and Burnley wrap up the double game week. Are we looking at any captaincy differentials? Anybody we're thinking might be quite exciting outside of Haaland this week?
Bowen?
Bowen?
Gordon? Not Newcastle team. Owns that Burnley team. Yeah, Newcastle assets definitely. I'd be very tempted to go a bit different this week.
Even Trippier, maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're all going to probably go Haaland anyway, but
the classic thing usually happens though. Everyone jumps on Newcastle because they won 8-0, and that game will be like 1-0 Burnley somehow.
Yeah.
I just can't see Burnley getting the points, to be honest, at the moment. But, there's me putting a goalkeeper in my five-a-side team. But yeah, I just, that was a panic pick, and I should have gone Flecking, shouldn't I? But yeah, Newcastle definitely options. Man U are good again, though, aren't they? We beat Burnley, then we beat Palace 3-0. Are we in crisis still, or are we all right now? Because I get confused every week. It changes for us. Casemiro.
Yeah, I think he's the most consistent goal scorer at the moment.
He's our top scorer. He's our top scorer, mate.
I know. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I think clutching at straws. Saying Palace was just so bad against Man U.
I absolutely love it though. This classic Man U narrative, by the way. All the commentary of the game was how bad Palace were when we win 3-0. But then,
because they watched the game.
But it's never how good we were. The fan of Klein got ripped for the Martial goal. I felt it's sorry for him. Martial moved backward quite nicely. Arsenal, of course, we're playing Bournemouth. I think there's quite a lot of half-decent captaincy options this weekend. We have to watch out for the rotation for Newcastle Burnley. Depends on who plays tonight, of course, as well against City. But yeah, if it's anyone from the double game weeks, it's pretty much always got to be Morris, hasn't it? So we've got Morris, we've got Haaland, we've got Bowen, we've got Trippier, Gordon. Yeah, plenty of captaincy options, and I'll probably just go for Haaland. Because, got no stones. Baz, have I remembered everything?
You have, mate.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us this week, guys. Thank you ever so much for everyone for bearing with our rambles and waffles about Fantasy Premier League and talking all things football. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, Pod, P, Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok. Like this video, guys. Log into your Google account and like this YouTube video. It helps us get loads more traction. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, we want to get over 200 views on our videos because it makes us feel good. It makes us feel like people actually care and listen to us, which is really nice. And give us 5-star reviews where you get your podcast from and subscribe to those channels. Barry, good luck this week.
Good luck to you.
Scott,
you need it.
Good luck this week.
Good luck to me.
Yeah, and I definitely need it. Thanks so much for listening, and goodbye for now.